What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Conversations with a Martial Artist. Thank you very much for joining me. My guest today is a very experienced guy, lots of different avenues, and also a fellow podcaster. You can check out my episode on his podcast. He's now jumped on to finish off part 2 here with me. His name is Olly Jones. He's done boxing, wrestling. He's now practicing Jiu Jitsu practitioner, teaching all over the place. He's also got a really interesting background in movement culture. We talk a fair bit about that as well, which is a nice, interesting, unique thing. And he's out doing a load of private lessons and things at the moment, and has an excellent podcast. He talks to all sorts of different guests, not just martial artists. Squeeze the Neck podcast. Highly recommend checking it out, especially the episode with yours truly. Excellent episode, if I may say so myself. But fascinating guy, really interesting insights, and he's got to sit down with loads of really interesting people. A few slight technical issues right towards the end of the episode, but nothing that should interrupt your enjoyment. Before you go ahead, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this podcast, available on Spotify and YouTube at CWAMA Podcast, and make sure to check out Squeeze the Neck podcast too. All of the links will be in the description, but without further ado, I will let you sit back and enjoy our conversation. All right, Olly, thank you for joining me on my podcast now. It's part 2 almost.
Part 2.
Yes.
Been here before, haven't we? Nice one, mate. I appreciate it. Having me on. Thank you. Almost makes me feel important this time.
I know, yeah. It feels so grown up, so needed.
I'm wanted.
So, for anyone that has missed part 1, where I came onto your podcast, would you just give a brief introduction about sort of yourself and your background in the martial arts world?
Yeah, man. So, initially with martial arts, my first ever entry into martial arts was when I was about 10. I did some Thai boxing. I did a couple of inter-clubs and things. I think I was, the reason I say I was 10, I thought I was 11, but I'm thinking I was 10 because I believe I was too young to fight, so I had to do like unscored bouts with whatever, you know. So I did a couple of them and they were fun, but you know, you're a kid, right, so it was whatever. I got more serious into it when I was about 17. I went to the boxing club, shout out Earlsfield Boxing Club, home of champions, and then I started fighting in the amateurs boxing, and I had 12 bouts for Earlsfield, which was, you know, a hell of an experience, tough in the amateur boxing. They're very shady decisions and stuff and whatnot.
Yeah, all part of the boxing world.
Which we'll get into because there's some stories there, but you know, fun times at Earlsfield, you know. I was club mates with people, for anyone who's into boxing, I was around the same time as sort of Bradley Skeet was a bit older than me, but people like Lewis Adolphe, Garvey brothers, all that kind of stuff. Joe Joyce was a club mate of mine, all them kind of people. That was a good time, you know?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Earlsfield Boxing actually. I've not actually been down there. I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine used to train there. Yeah. And I got to come down, I just never, I couldn't be arsed basically. But yeah, it's a cool one, that actually reminds me, but it's supposed to be a wicked club.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Not the most welcome of environments, like, you know, you probably come in and go, whoa, not for you, mate, you know, it's one of them things, but yeah, great memories for me, you know, perfect times. And then, not perfect times, but it was perfect to sort of toughen you up for the rigors of what boxing was going to bring, you know. But as I say, 12 amateur bouts, it wasn't like I was like an Olympic hopeful or anything like that, but you know, I had some hard fights down there, it was a good time. And then from there, as I got a bit older, I'm sort of, we spoke about it I think before, I'm quite curious mind, so I did some sparring. I used to work in Canary Wharf, and I did some sparring with some MMA guys. For striking or whatever, and then I started getting involved in some grappling. I won't mention their names for what I'm about to say, but they weren't very good.
Sure.
So I was kind of banging them around a bit on the feet, and then we'd start grappling, and they weren't very good there either. So I was kind of having a bit of, not success, but like I was in it.
Yeah, you were alright.
And it was like, and I'd never grappled before, do you know what I mean? So it was like, we did a bit, and then that kind of perked my interest a bit, but I was still boxing. And anyone who's done amateur boxing, if you go to a boxing club and tell you thinking they're doing grappling or MMA, they'll look at you like you're fucking...
Spit.
Yeah, exactly. Can we swear on it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was one of them. So then I started doing bits and pieces of things, but nothing, whatever. Because I was still in the boxing thing a little bit. And then when I got to about 22-ish, 23, I had a bit of a shoulder injury. And I was seeing different people, like specialists and whatever, that were saying I might have a torn labrum, might not. And this went on for about a year. So long story short, in this meantime, I started doing bits and pieces more. So when I got to 24, I started doing jiu-jitsu quite heavily. that was it. I've been in jiu-jitsu ever since, really. Do you know what I mean? I've been on that journey. And along that time, I know you've had him on Lubo, fantastic coach of mine. So shout out Lubo Kumbarov. When I was a blue belt jiu-jitsu, me and Nicky Robinson, my coach, who I've got all my belts under, he took me to a wrestling class in Kingston. It was just like a Saturday morning type of like, let's just go and wrestle. There's a wrestling class, there's some geezer who teaches wrestling. And we showed up. It happened to be Lubo, who, for anyone who doesn't know, is a 4-time national freestyle wrestler champion in Bulgaria. And it was just one of them lucky things you fall in one. And Nicky didn't stick with it. We did bits and pieces, but like Nicky was already a black belt at this point, so he's very sort of, tricky jiu-jitsu, like catching submissions off his back. Yeah. He was almost like too far down the road for it to help him. Do you know what I mean? It was more for him, I think, and I can't speak for him, but I think it was more of a situation of like how to deal with it when it comes versus like. But for me, as a blue belt and my style, I'm quite pressure heavy anyway. I was when I was boxing, so this was just like it worked for me. It was like fucking putting my hand in the glove. Do you know what I mean? It fitted, not fitted. It fit, and it was perfect. So I really started training a lot with Lubo. At one point, I was doing I think 4 classes a week with him and a private, and like I was in. I ended up going to Bulgaria with him for a week, which was a mad experience as well.
I've heard.
Yeah, and I definitely plan on doing it again. And anyone who gets a chance, I'd recommend it with Lubo. Those trips out there and whatnot, but it was great experience. And so with him, when I started training, changed my whole style. When I started just doing it, and he basically used to say things to me like, "Listen, you got to be who you are. Don't worry about all this tricky laying in the back nonsense. Not that it's nonsense, but for me, just do this. And I took it on and stuck with it. And I was lucky enough. We tried to go to a seminar recently.
We slightly missed.
He did different seminars, multiple seminars on the same day, at different locations. So we ended up
so close. We were about an hour apart.
It was at different ones, but we both got straight with him anyway. And you podcasted with him that day.
I did.
So shout out Lubo, as I say. And that's kind of my martial arts thing. So I'm very sort of curious minds. We spoke a little bit. I won't mention it quite yet on here, but there's like a few different things martial arts wise I'm coming into, and then I've got coming up that I'm going to start putting things together a little bit more. I'm in that. Until one of my legs falls off or whatever.
That's it, hanging out. And were you doing when you were wrestling with Lubo for that big chunk of time? Were you just strictly wrestling, or were you still working some of the boxing? Were you doing the jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much strictly grappling, but I was very kind of wrestling heavy. So I was grappling pretty much every day and doing jiu-jitsu, mostly no gi. I'd probably put the gi on once a week and stuff like that. And in terms of boxing and whatever at this point, I'm hitting the bag. Do you know what I mean? If one of my mates is around and we've got access to a ring, we might have a spar every so often, but not really. Do you know what I mean? I'm not fighting anymore at that point or anything like that. I was just in grappling mainly, you know.
No, that's fair enough. Because I'm always curious about how it sort of fits in. Because when you change styles so much like that, like you can to boxing to wrestling is, worlds apart. You know,
in ways, but Lubo really helped me put it all together and simplify everything. Because I was a bit like with the grappling. I was doing a lot of leg locks. I was doing like a lot of gi stuff. I was doing like the, like sort of De La Riva style of jiu-jitsu. Then I was like doing a bit of templating and learning like rubber guard and things like that. So I was kind of jumping around all over. When I met Lubo, I was like, boom, do this. And it was like all the other stuff. I kind of got to the point where I was more sort of like learning how to defend against everything, but just impose what I was doing. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's what a lot of people say to me is it's not necessarily about like trying to get good at all this. Like, there's so many different things, particularly with grappling, that like you can go down. Because actually, it's better to have your thing and learn to sort of keep you on that path. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I started cutting things out, I had much more success. Like big time, because boxing and wrestling, you say like worlds apart, but in some ways they helped each other, I think. Because my boxing style was a bit like with the grappling. I simplified it over time. Just come forward. I was very kind of aggressive and simple. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean simple like stupid, but simple as in like I cut out. I wasn't flicking a long jab and bouncing around the ring because it wasn't for me. Do you know what I mean? So the wrestling helped with that a lot. And I don't know what other people think, but I personally think when you start putting things together MMA wise, boxing's a better base than say kickboxing, even though you need kickboxing for obvious reasons. In terms of footwork and whatever, and that's what I think helped me with the wrestling massively, because I was basically doing the same thing, but instead of punching, grabbing. Do you know what I mean? So it went together a bit better for me. So that's what I found. And Luba, as I say, was a godsend. And I think I personally found him at the right sort of time. I wasn't a complete beginner. Do you know what I mean? I was about 2.5 years already into grappling, so I had a bit of a base. Do you know what I mean? Not that I was high level by any means, but I could grapple compared to.
You know what you're looking at least.
So the benefit I had of that is if I was wrestling with a complete beginner, I had my sort of little tricks to fall back on. Do you know what I mean? So I could play with my wrestling. Do you know what I mean? And that helped me massively.
Yeah, and is that something that you've still carried on as you've progressed? Because obviously you're a lot further down.
100%. I say this all the time, so anyone trains with me knows I'm probably boring them, but they like if I teach class. When I was teaching class about maybe a year ago, a white belt kind of like went blah blah, do this, do that, and then he asked a question. He goes, blah blah. When he does this and he goes to K guard from worm guard, and I was like, mate, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. I was like, just grab his head and squeeze. You know what I mean? Like, and I had another guy that said to me from Mount, which is a bit more simple. I could have given him a better answer, but it was like, how do you get an arm bar from Mount? Yeah. And I basically said, I don't. I push his arm across an arm triangle. You know what I mean? It's like, keep things simple is what I'm trying to say. So for me, it's not like I'm someone like Owen O'Flanagan who's been to ADCC and can fucking give you this move, that move, what works, what doesn't work. Yeah. But for me, what I'm doing, I'm very simple. Cut through the knots and put yourself on it. Like, I'm not that tall, but I'm quite strong, so I play on that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you, like, there's people that are sort of my weight, they're 6'4", right? And they gang me and they've got obvious advantages over me, but that leaves things open. So play the game.
Yeah, like that's the thing. And I always find it really interesting how, like, you're right, some people are like super technical.
With a hen doing it or something.
Yeah, exactly. There's been a party. But like some people, super technical, like super switched on to everything. They'll tell you all the names, like the fucking Japanese names and this and that, and all the moves, but aren't necessarily the best at hitting all of it. Some people are super specialised, some people don't know shit all, but they're amazing at what they do. It's so interesting to me to see how like them different styles, particularly when you start coaching, how that comes out as well.
Yeah. And what's your level of grappling like yourself?
Pretty shit.
No, don't say that. What are you ranked in jiu-jitsu?
Blue belt.
Yeah, you're not pretty shit then.
Yeah. Baby blue belt.
Baby blue belt.
I've been a zero stripe blue belt for like 2 years.
I'm still a zero stripe blue belt. I've never got any stripes on my blue. In fact, the last stripe I ever got was a 3rd stripe on my white belt. You know what I mean? So don't worry about stripes. My school doesn't give stripes out. I don't put much stock into them. But I forget the question. You asked me something then. Did I just cut you off?
No, that's alright. Yeah.
Oh, I asked you. I asked you about your grappling. You said your grappling was shit, but like, what was that like going with Luma? Because like from your point of view,
wicked. Yeah. I mean, because I think I'm similar sort of level with you, where I understand sort of what he's getting at. I can't necessarily do it, but I was at the right point where it wasn't all a mystery to me. I'm like, oh shit, I see what he's doing and why he's doing it, and like how this is really cool. And even small details, like I think, like from what I gather, the seminars he did was pretty similar to the one that you was at, the one that I was at. And even the minute details there is what I find more interesting, because as a big old martial arts dork, I take a lot of stuff from all these different arts. I see different people teach, and a lot of it you're like, pretty similar, like I get it. It's the little details that people add that I'm like, now that's how you know someone like knows what they're about. You know, they've got like all this, try this or adjust that and do things on the fly. That I think is really cool. So yeah, training with Blue Belt, you're absolutely right. Like that week in Bulgaria or 2 weeks or whatever would be, I imagine, killer. Like I think psychotic to do it. But
I'd say it was funny about it as well, like, because it was. I'm sure he had it planned, but I didn't really know the plan. Sure. So I got off the plane and I dislocated my big toe like 10 days before. So I'm limping, like, you know. And he kind of said, oh, today, don't worry, it's an easy day, we just go to the gym or whatever. It wasn't easy, it was like a circuit day, but the way they do circuits is like bodyweight stuff, so they're like carrying each other down the mat, throwing each other over each other, like jumping over each other, all kinds of crazy shit. So it was the hard.
The acrobatic.
Yeah, but I remember like we trained in the morning and then I went back to the room and I'm sort of chilling, we had some food together or whatever. Luba looked after out there, by the way. He goes to all kinds of places. It's great trip. And I was just in the hotel room chilling. And I got a phone call like, hey, I'll pick you up in 20 minutes, be ready, we're going to so. I was like, fuck it, now, here we go, you know, so it's another hard session. But great, you know. So yeah, recommend to go to Bulgaria and learn how to wrestle.
That would be better. I mean, there's nothing like fucking wrestling training. Like what you're saying there about the acrobatics, even their warm-ups are mental. I had my wrestling coach, Zelen, he's been on the pod as well. The warm-ups that he does, way worse than any of the class. I'm like, my God, that's the bit that gets me. You're doing all this acrobatic shit. I'm not an acrobatic guy. He's doing all these, you know, front flips and backward rolls into handsprings, into like whatever the fuck it is. And it's so far beyond me. But it's such a consistent thing, like you say, like carrying each other up and down. It's such a tough workout. And then they start wrestling. Like the wrestling mentality is nuts.
Well, they're the best athletes I've ever been around in anything. Like when I was in boxing, as I said, Ellsfield got some really high level guys, and you see people that are on GB teams, all that like pros used to come in, like big names you didn't know, like come in, not to name drop, but like guys that gone on to be world champion come down for sparring and still around. The level of athlete isn't quite to a wrestler. Like it's a completely different thing. And like after we trained one night out there was like a kids class. I think they were 6 to 9 years old, and they were doing like backflip down the mat in a warm up. You know what I mean? And they're kids, they're babies. But it's all very physical. Everything. Like we went one day, another thing we did to us, shout out Lubo. We was going for a walk, we get some mountain air, all this kind of shit. And we start walking, and go, and everyone's sprinting up the hill, get to the top of the hill, like exhausted, and there's like pull up bars and dips in the trees and shit, and like it's another 40 minutes or whatever it was, I might be exaggerating, but it's like another workout in the trees, and it was like, everything's like physical lifestyle, do you know what I mean? So it's different out there, they're all into it. They're athletes before they're wrestlers almost, it seems. You know what I mean?
That's it. I mean, Lubo on the podcast, he was talking about he's like the wrestler is a different animal. Like people don't understand. Like, I mean, you obviously hate yourself by doing boxing and wrestling because those are the two most athletic fucking combat sports that you can go down.
But they're different. The mentality is similar in terms of you're around people when you're in the gym. You're around people that are very tough. You know what I mean? And it's not that jiu-jitsu people aren't tough, but it's different.
There's more of a culture to it.
It's more of a game. Do you know what I mean? In certain spots, and like we all know people that come in that do jiu-jitsu that are mid-40s that they're not competing necessarily like someone who's again I mentioned like Owen Flanagan, someone who's done it forever and he's the right age and he's competing at world level and making a living from it. Then like he can still be on a mat with someone who's 45, trains 3 times a week, he's got 3 kids in his account. You know what I mean? Whereas in a boxing club that ain't gonna fly, and on a wrestling mat it definitely ain't gonna go. Like you can't. I don't think you can kind of casually train wrestling. You know what I mean? Some people might disagree, but I like. Certainly not with like when you go to Bulgaria and see these guys up close, there's no one coming in off of a fucking day job like taking the tie off and it wouldn't work. You get hurt, you know what I mean? It's a different thing, it's on your feet. Whereas jiu-jitsu you can kind of like play your game, can't you?
When you're a bit gassed, you sit down,
you
stall in the position.
You can play your game, sit especially in the gi, you can tie people up and do your thing. And again, boxing's different, like more like the wrestling style of things in terms of you get punched in the head, there's nowhere to hide, you know what I mean? That ain't a fun outcome if you keep doing that. You know what I mean?
There's no chilling there.
There's no chilling there, you know, unless you're levels above someone, you can kind of slip and slide and play your game. It's different, but when you're in places like that and you see it, like, it makes things difficult to not train like that. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to go and do, like I'll tell you a good story. I think it's a good story. I went to during this time when I said to you like the boxing, I was fiddling with farting about with loads of different things. I did 2 things, and they're both pretty much the same sport. They're Taekwondo and Hapkido. Right? So I went to Taekwondo class, and there was like, I'm not knocking anyone, but there were people in there that had high belts. And they were like, come on. And it was like, you know, at the end of the class, there was me, I think there was 3 of us that was having our first class. And one of the other guys was, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, he was about 5'5", and if he was under 120 kilos, I'd be fucking amazed. I'd be amazed. And he was training hard, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the class, like, you know, the instructor, I think there were a couple, 2 ladies that was like, you know, together, and they sort of like came over and went, you 3, you fantastic, and I'm so impressed. And you know, you just go, like, come on. So I left that, I didn't do that one anymore. And then I went to Hapkido class, and there was a guy in there, and I think I told this on my podcast, anyone who's listened to my nonsense before, is this guy was like, I spoke to him on the phone, by the way, I won't mention where it was, but he, yeah, no problem, come down. He had a bit of a Korean accent, but he was English. Sorry, he spoke perfect English. Yeah. He wasn't English, he was Korean. But I get there, suddenly he don't speak English, right? And you're going, all right, cool, we're doing that. I go, oh, he was and just sort of like bowing and making a grunt at you like he didn't speak English. So it's fine, whatever. But he's one of his students comes over, he's a black belt, he's about 14, taking through some of the things. And I'm not a kid, I'm about 24, 23. Before I started jiu-jitsu, probably 23, 22, something like that. And it was like, okay, cool. You're a black belt, you're a kid. Alright, okay, fine. And they're in the adults class, and there was guys in there that were like in their 50s in like their coloured belts, making noises. But the reason I bring it up is there was a guy holding pads at the start, at the front. And the black belts are coming up and kind of missing the pads a bit. And then it was my turn and it wasn't difficult. And I was like looking at the thing, I'm better than you at Hapkido. I've never done it, do you know what I mean? And it was all a bit weird. And then we did like a wrist lock thing, which is a bit over the tail. But it was like one of these. So if you give me your wrist now, and it was like one of these, you fall to the floor. And I was just kind of like, nah, that don't work.
Yeah.
So the guy was my partner, and then he was like, oh, you know, he brings the master, I think let's call him over. And he done it to me. And it was like, instead of me doing this with the normal guy, it was kind of like, like, oof, not really, do you know what I mean? And I could, if I wanted to, I could probably pull my arm away, right? One of them jobs. So I left that as well, but like, because it was the reason I bring them two up, they're like cult-like. Everyone's like bowing at the master, and he's like, this is bullshit, isn't it? Like, this ain't gonna work. You know, this 14-year-old kid ain't beating me, is he? And he's like, he's a black belt. But anyway, so I started doing jiu-jitsu and whatnot, and it's completely different because you're gonna get tapped straight away. So you feel it, right? And they're clever on the kids' belts and whatnot because it's a kids' belt. You know what I mean? You're not a black belt when you're 10. You know what I mean? There's kids out there that have been training 10 years and they're 16, they've just got a blue belt. But that's cool, right? Because they essentially, skill-wise, they might be a black belt, but they're not. Because they're still coming into their body. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. So there's all that stuff out there. But yeah, with the boxing and the wrestling, there's no ranking system.
That's it. You're just in. It's how long you do it.
Yeah, which I've got a lot of time for. And that's why I like the ranking system in jiu-jitsu. There's no test. The coach gives you your belt when you're ready.
Yeah, you know I really like that.
I like that because it's real. He sees you train all the time, you know, versus like Taekwondo. How long have you been here? Oh, you're due a new belt.
Yeah, I've always had a problem with like gradings in general for martial arts. I've also done a lot more like traditional martial arts, and it's more like it's like, right, on this day it's grading day. You pay X amount is your grading fee. You go through like some motions, and it's like and then at the end you get things like, well, actually maybe like that day won't be a day, but I can do that shit with my eyes closed, or maybe I can do the stuff for 3 belts higher, but I haven't been here enough time to be allowed to go for that. Whereas jiu-jitsu, I really like the chill nature of like, you just do your thing, you turn up every time, coach goes, he's moving pretty fucking well, like he seems to be tapping him, he seems to get it, his movement looks good, he's relaxed, whatever, bosh, new belt, off you crack.
And they won't give you any time. Like, I know people that are blue belts that were blue belts when I started jiu-jitsu.
That's what I mean.
They're still blue belts 10 years on. And it's like, that's how it should be. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, you can't get a belt early. Like, you can't have someone come into a jiu-jitsu school and take on a black belt in grappling and do well. It's not going to happen. They're annihilated. But the Taekwondo and Hapkido schools I went to, I was like, I think I can take on the master now. You know what I mean? I've been here half hour. I think I could do it. I think I could beat him now with that kick he showed me. You know? So with the jiu-jitsu, like the competitive one basically, right? I know Taekwondo's in the Olympics, but I don't know if you watched the last Olympics of Taekwondo. Jesus Christ, like it's fucking embarrassing. Like it's like they've watered it down so much. It's like it's not even a fight anymore.
Even proper Taekwondo guys I've spoken to don't like that stuff. Like there's a big divide in Taekwondo between like Olympic Taekwondo and I never remember which way around it is, but it's like ITF and WTF Taekwondo. I can't remember which one's which. I think WTF is like the Olympic one where it's all point scoring and like slappy and you can't make contact or proper contact. And like you can't punch, you can't hook, you can't throw like hook punches or whatever. There's all sorts of weird rules. But yeah, it's about like I don't mind if you're like, okay, this is a game of like what we're doing, like this is a skill set we're trying to do, but at the same time there gets too much pressure I think put on stuff where you're like, oh yeah, no, like I'm a master in this thing, like I'll fucking whoop everyone's ass. It's like, you're really good at that game.
I think it's just cowardly because it's their sort of like way out of not having to fight for real and not have to actually spar because they go, no, we do this and it's like. I'll tell you another one I had was I did some Chinese martial arts with some people And that was fucking like ridiculous. They was like, no, we can't spar properly because it's too dangerous.
There is.
And it was like, well, what the fuck? How do you know it works then? Well, no, it's like, but it's not going to work. You know what I mean? And I'm not knocking the people. I won't mention it again. It work. I'm not knocking them because they all enjoyed it and whatever. But I'm looking around at them and I'm like, none of you have ever had a real fight in your life.
Yeah.
Like, not as big or clever to be like, oh, those street fights, but like, you've never been in a situation where you've been somewhere and someone punched you in your head and tried to take you out. You've just done the voodoo stuff and thought, it's like, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
And I did one recently. I was privileged to help teach some wrestling stuff at Krav Maga thing. Shout out Krav Maga London and Cloudy. And like, I don't know if you've ever done Krav Maga or had any contact with Krav Maga.
A little bit.
But they're not a competitive thing in terms of singing, but they are the real deal. Like this stuff worked. Like, if I was in a car park and I had to get a couple of mates together quickly, Big Cloudy would be in the starting line. Yeah, he would, like, it worked. You know what I mean? He was doing stuff and it was really cool. I was teaching some wrestling stuff, all stuff like blocking the head, moving people around, whatever. And then I was teaching for a few hours, and then afterwards, Cloudy comes over with a big bag of sticks. And he was like, right, now we adapt it. Yeah. And he was like, let me do this. And he's basically doing almost what I did with a stick.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, yeah, this is.
But that's how it should be for like self-defense oriented arts, because that's the problem with a lot of martial arts. Is they were like, oh well, we're not a sport martial art, which is cool, if that's not your thing. Yeah. But we're a self-defense thing. Like, but like, how much time you put in, like, how much adaptability are you, or are you just doing like, here's the set drills, here's whatever, and you're saying, just trust me, that shit works.
No, 100%. And that's why I like Krav Maga. In terms, not I've done a lot of it, but I'm going to do more. Cloudy's going to come with it. But it's good because in terms of like what they do, like Cloudy, she's a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and probably should be more, will be more, definitely be a black belt one day because he's going to stick with it, he's one of them. But he's come to me and asked for some wrestling stuff, he's done stuff with Lubo, and it's like, he done like sessions with me just for boxing and stuff, and it's like, he wants to learn the individual things and he takes it how he can apply it to what he does.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not like, no, that doesn't work, we don't do that. Because it's bullshit, right? And like the guy, I think his name's Imi something, right? Who created Krav Maga. He was like a champion boxer, champion wrestler, champion gymnast that put it together. So he's come, like, he's a real bad motherfucker, isn't he? You know what I mean? He just put this thing together. It's not like my Chinese master can't be beat nonsense, which is, I've seen some of them guys.
There's an interesting one with Krav because it's a bit of a varied one, is my understanding. Again, I'm not like a Krav guy, but I'm a nerd. And there's a big thing, like Krav Maga, I can't remember exactly what it means, but it translates to basically whatever that style is. So when Krav first came about, it was very specific. It was like, we're doing this, like say it comes from boxing and wrestling, whatever. But when it started becoming popular, it became, Krav Maga just meant like, I can't remember, you know, like karate's empty hand or whatever.
It's got something.
It means something like that, of like, you know, the.
Should we find out? We might have to. Find out. Let's find out.
Jamie, pull that up.
Jamie, pull that up. Young Jamie.
It translates to something vague, basically. And the thing was, people then would start doing whatever. So you could go to this Krav school and the instructor was a boxer and a wrestler and whatever. And then this school over here is a karate guy that is basically doing the same thing but under the banner of Krav Maga. So that's where it then becomes a real mix, because if you watch Krav Maga online, you see some absolutely wanky like stuff where
just
like,
some dickhead saying Krav Maga.
Yeah.
So Krav Maga means contact combat.
There you go. Something vague.
Contact combat. Punch someone in the ear.
Yeah, exactly. So you get all these guys from karate, or this guy's from jiu-jitsu, and this guy's a wrestler, whatever, and they're just like, oh well, I'm a Krav Maga school. Much like how people will be like, oh, self-defense, but it's like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, you're doing Hapkido, whatever. And so then that's where you get some really wanky stuff. So you either get really good Krav Maga stuff, and I was listening to a podcast on this recently, I can't remember who the hell it was now, that's bad.
Your memory's terrible, mate. You can't get too much.
Yeah, obviously, I'm not very good at the defense. But and the point is though, it is really vague. So you can get really good Krav schools, like this guy sounds like the business. And then you get some really bad ones as well. But I'm quite interested. I'm hopefully having a Krav guy on fairly soon to talk about that.
I'm trying to get Cloudy on. He's a Polish guy, and I've known him for years. He says his English isn't good enough. It's a load of shit. He has banter me, and if you can understand me when I speak fast, like, English people have trouble with me at times. Like, we have banter. bullshit excuse. I'm coming for you. You're coming on. And we get you on here as well. It's like a double whammy. Yeah, Krav Maga, like the guys I've experienced with Krav Maga, is like the real deal, man. You know what I mean? Like proper. Like it's the only one that's not like a sport.
Yeah, I think it's because you're focused.
Yeah.
I think if any time you're focused and you're realistic about what you're on about, then it's all right.
But that's what it is. It's realistic. These guys are like,
be honest.
They'll spar with you.
Yeah.
And they're like, I've got a problem. And that's where it comes through. Really, you know what I mean? Like if you're wrestling, for example, and someone keeps taking you down, you can't go, oh no, it's because I've no, you got to down fucking 20 times. You know what I mean? It is what it is, isn't it? So they've got their element of that. But like, as I say, the Chinese martial arts I used to do, I stay vague because I don't disrespect to they're kind of geeks, right? But it was in bats and half the class. And as I say, like I just looked around and I thought none of you, even at school, have never had a fight. So what we're doing here is a complete fucking waste of time. You know what I mean? A complete waste of time because you don't have this work, you know?
Yeah.
And I believe we were somewhere else, we was inside somewhere, and the main guy teaching got one of his students to run at him and like do his thing, and he was careful with who he picked, right? Not that I'm trying to sound like a tough guy, but he didn't pick me, right? He picked the guy, and the guy nearly turned him over. And I was like, I looked at it, and that really changed my mind. As I said, I was physically fighting about with it. I was like open-minded, like to the point of like, I'll try. And I went to a good amount of classes, do you know what I mean? It wasn't like I went to one and went out, that's wank, like I did a half kilo. Because that was terrible. but this was like intriguing enough to keep you coming.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So, but then that kind of shut me off. I was like, that wasn't impressive. I was like, the way you dealt with that situation when a guy clearly can't fight running, it was terrible. And he asked a girl after that to do it. Yeah. And I was like, you know when you're like he's just like looking round. Oh, you!
Anyone?
It's like, you know, it's like a guy with like a fucking sugar diabetes in a club foot, you know? I was like, bro, if I ran at you like that, I think you'd fall over, you know? Yeah. And it was like, so that was tough to deal with, but I'm on a rant anyway. But I do that. But we're around the same.
I mean, to be fair, I'm much the same because I am, again, a geeky. I practice Wing Chun, which is one of the geeky kung fu styles. But I think there is a problem with that stuff in the whole, like that whole traditional martial arts community. It needs more like
it's the mindset of it. Yeah, it's not because like you do Wing Chun. There's some elements of Wing Chun that right? They're work.
That's it. I
it's as a whole. Like they're blind. There's a guy online. Someone might be able to help in the comments or something, right? Where he does like wing. Is it chain punching?
Yeah.
And he shows how to defend against a double leg. And he's like, when the guy's head's on the outside, now I throw my punch like, bro, you'll be on your back so fucking fast. That's it. You know, and it's like, it's that side of it, it's stupid, isn't it?
There's a lot of like misunderstandings and misconceptions of what's what in Wing Chun, but also just generally in a lot of these traditional things where it's just, this is how I've been taught it happens, and this is what I'm told, but without much like experience, and you just sort of go through the motions on the chance that it works. But until you actually like experience it, you're like, oh shit, right, I need to change that. And like personally, I'm a big lover of Wing Chun, but my Wing Chun has changed drastically in the past few years since I've started like competing and going out in full contact. And I know it's not what it's for, but when you start to add these elements, you start to understand these things. It happens, and it changes with everything. Like I like to try all these martial arts, but you have to be honest about what you do. If you're there just because you're like, actually, I really like. I go to Wing Chun and I practice Wing Chun regularly because I just like it. I just enjoy it.
I was going to say, if you can do a salsa, right?
That's it, yeah.
But it's not going to help you if someone attacks you on the way home. You know what I mean?
It's be honest with whatever you're doing. That's my thing. With the martial arts, I think are generally pretty dishonest.
Yeah.
And again, coming back to wrestling and boxing though, that's a good thing of they're super honest. They're not like, oh, this is the self-defense thing. Like, this is a sport. We're training to wrestle another guy. We're agreeing. We're not going to punch each other. We're only going to, Greco-Roman. We're only going to lock on the upper body. We're not going to touch your legs and stuff like that. Boxing. I'm not going to kick you. I'm not going to grab you. I'm not going to fucking spit at you. Like, whatever it is. Yeah, maybe.
There's a famous clip. I don't know. I saw it recently. It's really funny. It's an old clip of Frank Bruno. You know Frank Bruno is heavyweight champion, and he's coach, and he's like having banter with him in the gym. He goes, "Oh, excuse me, my balls are itchy. Can you scratch them for me?" And the coach goes, "Spits on him." I just go, fuck. Imagine that nowadays, like this ain't that long ago, like it's probably in our lifetime, you know what I mean? It's spits on him, and they're all laughing and stuff. I was like, oh bro, scratch my balls and spits on him, but there you go. But the other thing with them kind of martial arts, like you're saying, is you're sparring, right? So you're finding out.
It brings the reality. And again, that's the thing with self-defense martial arts. You don't necessarily have to spar, but there should be some element of pressure to it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of people don't either have a proper pressure test where people are being realistic about these situations, where it's just like, okay, I'm gonna swing a punch at you, a very specific punch, a lot faster than I would normally, and let's see.
I think you do have to spar. If you self-defend, we call it self-defense.
Yeah.
You have to spar because you have to know when shit is defend, when the geezer's not.
But it depends what you mean by sparring. Like, have you ever seen these like reality-based self-defense places? So they're really cool actually. They will literally put you in a like, let's say you're in this bar and you've got a guy head to toe in gear, and they act just like they would. Let's say you're a drunk guy that's like kicking off in a bar or whatever. And they go for it, and it's still 100%. And like you practice realistically, they're trying to grab you, they're trying to punch you, but you can go fucking ham on them without worrying, like they've got groin guards and face.
But that's sparring to me, you know what I mean?
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's how do you define sparring?
Exactly, yeah. Sparring, can be
but it's live resistance.
Exactly, when the guy means it and it's all go, but you know what I mean, it's real. You can't have that, because again, interesting, this Krav Maga thing, there were some guys there that were big guys, but there was also a lady who kept asking me a few questions, and she was tiny. I don't know how much she weighed, but I'm guessing somewhere around the 50 kilo mark. And she was, again, very honest about things. She was like, so how would that one work for me if I was doing that to, like, I think she was always young, big, heavy, set that. But it's honest, you know what I mean? We adapt it and we try it, and if it don't want to try something else. And sometimes the answer is, don't do it. You know what I mean? Don't do it because it's too big.
Not everyone's for everything.
Exactly, yeah. If you're a 50 kilo lady against a 120 kilo guy, you got to pick your battles here, haven't you? It doesn't matter how good you are at what you do. Don't fall Della Hilo.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It ain't gonna work, is it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. You've got to do other things, and that's the thing. You've got to like strategize different things. When I've taught that stuff in the past, it's very much like, okay, what I'm telling you isn't the same as what I'd be telling you. Like, use your brain. Like, you might have to rely on physicality. You might have to rely on like some sort of deception or whatever to get yourself out of these scenarios. And again, that's the thing. It's just honesty. Like,
and some things are simple too. Sometimes the answer is punching in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, you'd be fucking surprised.
Yeah.
It's like even a little person. I've always said this. Like, a much smaller person, like your 50 kilo girl versus 120 kilo guy. I don't care if you're a 120 kilo guy. Imagine you have like a 10 kilo dumbbell and someone fucking smashes it in your face. You can generate that power as a 50 kilo person. Like, it's gonna give you something. It's not gonna be like the same as if you fucking smacked him. Like, you might be able to put him on the floor, but you're gonna get something out of him. And it's like, it's understanding that, I think.
And it's being real about things too. That's the other end of it you get is people go, oh, if you really can choke me, I'll just poke you in the eye.
Yeah.
Well, Buff Rules spoke about this as well. It's like, what do you think is going to happen if you poke me in the eye?
Yeah.
I'm going to go, I'm probably going to finish the choke first, break it there, and then stamp on your head for poking me in the eye. And then I'll worry about my eye, you know? That's Buff Rules not me saying that. So he knows a thing or two. But there's elements of that too, because that's the cop out. We've got on a bit of a rant about fake martial arts, dojos, but there's some brilliant ones out there. But let's talk about boxing, I guess. But sorry, one thing to touch on, I didn't mention during like this time when I was going before, like going from boxing into jiu-jitsu. Around the time I was feeling fun about all this bullshit Hapkido guys. I trained with a fellow called Ido Portal.
Well, I think we spoke about
it. Did we speak about it before?
Ido
Portal, he had a big influence, I think, because he's very much, he does martial arts, he's not a martial artist. And I actually had the privilege of podcasting in Berlin with the guy who gave me his blue belt. Shout out Rodrigo Fernandez out in BJJ dojo in Berlin. Calls himself the Red Fox, even though he's not ginger.
Cool name, though.
He's cool name. He's a great guy too, great dojo, the whole deal. But he's very much, when you're training under him, it's almost like training in the martial art. There's no bullshit here. Like, he teaches, he's got to do handstands. All kind of, anyone who follows me on Instagram sees him do handstands and all the kind of muscle up stuff on the ring. It all came from him. You know what I mean? But he's very much like martial arts mindset. Obviously, he's worked with McGregor and he's done the whole thing, but he's like, straight to the point. You know what I mean? None of this shit.
I really like Ido stuff, and I know we spoke about it. I think off camera last time. I can't remember if we were on your podcast or not. But the Ido Portal stuff's really cool, and I've seen you do a lot of that, and I wanted to ask you about that because I know he calls it like movement culture, is it? Yeah.
So that's from
super interesting.
Yeah. So that's more from his students. Like he just called it like movement. Yeah. It's like people like put things in a box, right? Like they like to have a label on it. Like, what are you doing? Movement. And I think some of the students call it Ido Portal method, and you kind of took that on just because you have to have this. It's the least polluted kind of word you can have, right? But it's a funny culture as well because it's like anything. It branches out too far. It's too far away from the source. Yeah. So if you're a close student of Ido, you're getting it. Whereas like if you're a student, I've been a student of Edo, I train someone, they train someone, they train someone. 7 people down the line, you've got some like crazy bullshit in the park, you know what I mean? It waters down, doesn't it, you know? But when you train with him or some of his close students, I've had Anna from Bamboo Body in Barcelona on the podcast too. He was a very close student and like takes it for what it is and like really teaches it. And what's really good about that culture, like I started training with him, I think 2014 was the first time I met him in person. And from 2014, mid-2014 to sort of the end of 2015, I trained him a lot. And I was going all over the world, I did different internships with him.
Awesome.
Movement camps, like with him personally. I knew him from a trip to Berlin, so I turned up early in Thailand for a trip because of jet lag. And I met him and Odelia, who's one of his very close students, and they obviously already knew me. So I had like 3 days training with them before the course was started. It was so good. I was like, I remember the morning of the course starting, I was like, I don't even want to course now, let's just fucking carry on training, you know what I mean? All these bums getting in my way, I'm having a good time. But yeah, intense training, but no bullshit, you know, like on one of the courses we won, there was a girl, like, let's call it weird, she was a fucking pretty girl from America or Canada or somewhere. You know, pretty girl, all the right bits, all the right spots, the right accent, you know. She was there to get fucked by people, right? Let's call it what it is, you know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
Yeah, she was
you were there, mate.
Yeah, I was there. Hey, I was there. No, but she was one of them, she'd come and talk to you, you know, like she's a bit of a space invader, and she'd talk to you, she'd touch you, and you're like, come on, man, chill out, huh? And one of the guys, I think, took on the man, you know, sort of down here, shout out, you know who you are. But anyway, the reason I bring her up, is we was like doing handstand drills one day, and they're hard, like capacity stuff, so like on the wall holding the handstand for extended periods of time. And she's kind of like came down, you know, and Ido's response kind of looked kind of said to her, make sure she's okay. Get her up on fucking side basically, right?
We're back. Technical issues
around here.
So you're saying this girl at Edo Portal.
Yep, the girl just wanted to get fucked by somebody.
Yeah.
He'd end up getting fucked by somebody, wasn't me folks, so I'm not playing the Casanova card or anything like that.
But she's been booted out, yeah.
She's been booted off the course. Not booted off the course, she came in on the last day, and like anyone who's training with Edo Portal, it's very serious, it's very like you're there. She came in one day and she's like, I'm just gonna say guys, thanks, lovely to meet you all, and I'm just going. And she basically, she messaged me after, because as I said, she didn't get fucked by everyone. Right. She wasn't picking. She wasn't picking. And she was a fair sort. She was, you know. Yeah. Anyway, anybody who was on that course for 2014, you know what I mean. And she kind of swanned off, and she messaged me after saying, yeah, I went stalking her. You know. She's basically a rich girl it seemed like, I don't know her story, but she seemed like come from a rich family. She saw this Edo Portal thing, and saw videos of him and thought, like, oh, I'll do that. And it was like, you know, yeah, this is serious, you know. So training's hard, but it's very raw. And like, let's say anyone who's seen me do my handstands and whatever, all came from that. And like the way he trains, the methodology of it. I recently reconnected with him in Barcelona for a day workshop this year. It's the first time I've seen him and trained with him in person for sort of 8-9 years. And it was like, it's evolved as well, and it's like, it is serious. Yeah.
And for people listening that don't really know, would you explain a bit about the movement? I know the whole thing is not being defined or whatever, but a little bit about what sort of stuff it is, because like you say, there's the handstands and things, but there's a lot more to it as well, right?
Yeah, so it's like, from my view on it, and I asked, not to plug my podcast, but when I had Anna on mine, I asked her, and she went on a big spiel. So anyway, check that out with Anna of Bamboo Body, because she really explained it great. But for me, when I did it, as I say, I came from like fighting background. So I initially, if I go back a bit further, when I started with the boxing and stuff, I started doing CrossFit to help with the fitness. Just as a floor mentality, but you know, there's good things with CrossFit. And through CrossFit, I found videos of Edo and stuff, and so I started going on this journey. And I basically used it to sort of like help me, like almost like a strength conditioning thing. Yeah. But the more you dive into it, the more you realise there's so much more to it. Yeah. And it's like, instead of just like doing handstands and stuff, which you do, and muscle ups and all that kind of fancy hand shit, it's basically opening your body up to different ideas and making your body able to learn better.
Yeah.
Like my understanding of it, you know, some of the people guys are probably fucking going nuts. No, it's not, you know, but we do things like, sometimes we do sessions where we just be bouncing a rail.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that stuff.
And that's hard, man, it's fucking hard. Again, going back to like 2014 when I was in Berlin with him, we did a lot of training around the velodrome. velodrome is in like the indoor cycling track. And outside it, there's like a rail that goes round, it goes up, and it goes round. And it's like a handrail. It's hard. And we had to like do different tasks and like different balancing moves. And then at the end of it, we had to go around the whole fucking velodrome around this thing place. And it's hard, man. You keep falling off, you get back on, you know. So all things like that, and spatial awareness. I've done drills with him where he's like you're balancing a pen on your finger.
Yeah, I've seen loads of
following it, and there's all kinds of crazy. Whatever I say is not going to do it justice. Right?
But that's the thing, because you see a lot of what they train, and it is very like weird looking. You're like, what the fuck are those?
And people
guys
don't get
doing?
it. Like there's a lot of hanging and brachiation stuff for your shoulders, all kinds of spinal waves. He does like the squat challenge. He calls it like 30 days. You sit in the squat for 30 minutes, 7 minutes of hanging, different separate from each other, but the same principle. People don't get it. Like when Nate Diaz fought McGregor and he's touched back in the park, and it's like he's kind of. I tell you another one, and I've kind of butchered him on him before. Brendan Sharp. Not that I don't like the guy. I listen to his podcast and stuff, but he does say some fucking dope stuff. Right? And he, he was saying about it, like, yeah, I don't get it. You should learn to wrestle first. It's like, bro, you're not getting it. It's like, it's not the wrestle first. It's like doing this kind of stuff that will help your body for the wrestling. It will help you learn wrestling faster. It will help you be more adaptable to take on the ball. That's what McGregor did. He's smart enough. Yeah. So, kind of really smart and Brendan Sharp. Basically, what I'm saying. So,
yeah, fair enough. Low bar.
And if you want a challenge match, he's looking for an MMA fight, Brendan. He'll fuck you up. You're about the same size, right?
Yeah. Well, he'll have to come past my way.
There you go. He'll make 68 kilos. My boy Tom will fuck you up. But yeah, so there's a lot to it, and it's hard training, but it's like it's rewarding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you go on these courses like I went on with you. It's not a joke, man. It's like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Every day, no fucking around.
Yeah.
Be there on time. You know what I mean? It's a benefit, and I had different experiences. Like some of the guys that were quite high level and stuff. I've told this before on mine, and it's like sounds like a package on the back of a million, but just a little bit his mindset. There was different groups of like levels, basically, like beginners. There was like people and I don't know exactly what it was, but like for example, people could do like 60-second handstands, people could do whatever. And I was in a group with some really sort of good people. And we did like almost like a circuit one day of like pushing simple stuff, like pull-ups, dips, pistol squats, here, there. I forget what it was, but about 8 different stations, and it was hard. And it was some of these guys were a bit lazy with it, and he kind of had a go when he was going back. I was in that group, so I had to go back up to it. So as I'm walking up to it, he was like, "You fucker, you," and he kind of caught me at the corner of his eye and he went, Olly trained hard. He said Olly comes from boxing. He knows how to push hard. And he was you. And I was like, yeah, that's it, man. I should have fucking filmed it. But he's one of them. He's a hard taskmaster. But sure, if you put it in, he'll be on you. You're on his team. You know what I mean? And again, going back to when I saw him in Barcelona recently, I hadn't seen him in person for 8-9 years. I don't know when he was younger than used to either. So I walked down, I've got the fucking cauliflower ear. So I'm thinking like, I go and talk to him and he's like, oh yeah, I remember, but I put in a lot of work with him. So he remembered it, and he kind of saw me from across the street as I was crossing. He was like, oh yeah, and gave me a big hug. And like, that goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I put a lot of blood, sweat and tears in doing that shit. So shout out. Yeah, exactly. If you ever get a chance to train with him in person, it's worth it. He's honest too. He'll put out like a lot of these marketing guys go train less and it's cheap. He don't play that shit. He's like, listen, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be really expensive. It's gonna be dedicated. I don't give a fuck about anything. He doesn't say that, but I don't give a fuck about your family. I don't give a fuck about what you got going on. If you come properly.
Commit.
And that's when you get the results, man.
I bet, yeah. That's always been something I've been super interested in. I've watched a lot about it, but I've never, I sort of understand where it's come from, but I'd love to go and train stuff like that. There's a few other guys, I think, students of his, more sort of locally based, which I always wanted to try, but I've never.
So go watch that too, because there's a lot of students of his that go, I'm a student of Vito Portal, and they've done like a day course. Because there was a guy, I won't say his name because he's a nice guy, but he's just, he gets out of his lane. And he did a few things with Vito, and I had a client away once. Oh, sorry, my fault. I messed up a client once, time-wise, and she rang me. She was like, "I'm here," and she travelled about an hour and a half to see me. I was like, "But whatever." I learned that. I was like, "Listen, I fucked it up.
Yeah.
Right, we'll figure it out. Give you some free session. We'll do more. Blah blah blah." And the guy said like, "Oh, I'm here. I can," not to me, to her.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm here. Look, I'm happy to train you for free," kind of thing, which was nice of him. And he said, blah blah. And she was like, I don't really know. Because she came specifically to train with me. She'd been recommended to someone else. And she was like, I don't know, whatever. And he was like, oh, don't worry, my friends are the same guy. I've got the same experience. I'm a student of Ego Full Time too. And we had a bit of a falling out after because I showed up and I was like, bro, I know you fucking. Like, yeah. I've put in fucking tens of thousands of pounds. I've been all over the world like for weeks at a time. Yeah. You've done a day course. Shut the fuck up about like, So you run into a bit of that too. And it's like, the guy, again, nice guy, but couldn't do a handstand, couldn't do anything. It was like if you relate it to martial arts, he was like a one-stripe white belt in movement. Yeah. Right, and it was like, don't play that shit, And there's a lot of that out there too, because I was saying to the guys recently when I was training away with some of the Forte students and whatever, and it was like, London's quite polluted for that. London's quite,
I bet.
I do movement.
I bet that's a big market around there.
Oh mate, when I hear someone's a movement teacher, I kind of go, okay. Yeah, what did you do? Do you know what I mean? Because again, like martial arts, do you do Hapkido or you're a black belt in Jiu Jitsu? Yeah? And you get a bit of that, and then you got to watch that too. Because when you go to these places, like where I was in Bamboo Body in Barcelona, I've been to ACO movement in Denver and Boulder. They're not affiliated with Ego anymore, but they've done a lot of training with him. Bamboo Body is very affiliated with Ego still. But when you go to these places, it's different. They get it, they know, they train. And the difference between the two as well, with Bamboo Body, where they kind of very much still in the Ego lineage and very there, versus like ACO, they come from it, but now they kind of branch out and doing their own thing a little bit. It's different, but it's good. You know what I mean? It's still the right way. Whereas like my experience in London, I'm sure there's people out there, but anyone I've trained with in London who's a movement guy, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. Yeah, they do. Well, they just don't get it. They do, like, as I say, balance on rails and do all this kind of stuff. They'll do it, but they don't know why they're doing it.
Yeah.
We're balancing on rails. Why are you doing that? Well, because it's movement. It's like, but why? Yeah. Like, you say to him, why are we doing this? He'll go, boom. Yeah, and we're doing this. The reason we're doing it, the reason we're not doing that. And it's like, it means something. But like instead, it's like, why are we doing muscle? Oh, this is muscle. It's like, yeah, but, yeah? Do you know what I'm saying? So you come across that a lot too. And that's tough to deal with, which wouldn't be tough to deal with if I didn't have the experience I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you just go, this is great, muscle ups, you know what I mean? But like when you go out there and like, you spend hours, like in Berlin, I remember being in Berlin with him doing like handstands for like a fucking 4-hour session. And it's like, man, it's hard, everything hurts. And like then the next day you come back and you're doing different bits. I remember being on a 5-day course with him in Berlin, 2 sessions a day, they're 3 or 4 hours each at time. And I remember I'd done like the Monday full day, Tuesday full day, Wednesday morning session, and I'm going back for the afternoon on the Wednesday, and I'm fucked, man. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck. I can't, my leg was shaking and twitching. And by the way, I'm only about 24 at the time. Yeah. So it's not like I'm like, I had no excuse age or anything. I'm fucked. And I turned up, and you start going, you start getting through it, and you're fine because you're with him, and it's like he don't play that shit. Like as I said, it's like don't come there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I got a lot of respect for Ego Forte. A lot of people talk shit about it now as well, but they're all pussies. So if I've seen it, I've seen Ego.
Fair enough. And how do you actually sort of get started on that stuff? Because like as beginner level, some of the stuff that you're doing looks fucking wacky. Some of it doesn't look that like physically demanding. Some of it looks mentally, physically demanding. Like how does like day dot person that walks in? So where do you start? Like?
Yeah, well for me, I just went on a 2-day course. It was called Movement X at the time. This was 2014. So this was when I was coming back from shoulder injury and stuff. I was kind of getting back into it. Just that's 3, 4, 5 months before I started Jiu Jitsu. And I'm training, I did a 2-day course up in Northampton. And it was a big group of like 80 people. We had like him and I think 3 or 4 of his students like helping him. It was all about him, you know what I mean? He was showing his whatever. So I did that, and then a month later I signed up for the internship in Berlin. Then I signed up for the internship in Thailand, and I was in But once I'd done the one in Berlin, he knew me. Do you know what I mean? So when I signed up for the Thailand one, now he really knows me. Now we're like, we was at the point, I don't have Facebook anymore, but we had Facebook, we had like personal messages back and forth and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So I was in. And it was great. But now, and I don't know, because nowadays he does things a bit different. Now he's at another level now, I guess. So he's like, he doesn't do as much. Like I don't know what he does in terms of workshop stuff. I don't know if you can go that.
Yeah.
But what you can do, and what I did do with for a while, was online coaching with him. So if anyone can, I don't know if anyone can sign up for that, but anyone can message him.
Yeah. Look it up.
Get on his team. You can go on ediobotel.com and the infos and stuff. And he's different. Like when I did the online coaching, it was like not amateur hour, but it was a bit like emails back and forth, and he sent you some videos and a bit like that. Sure. Whereas now, like again with Anna and the guys out in Barcelona, they're on it, and they show you the platform now, and it's
a lot more.
It's proper. Sure. They've got a full platform, and it's not so. It doesn't seem so kind of militant as it was when I was on it. It seems a bit more kind of before it was
user friendly.
Well, it was more when I was doing it. It was like right, do many hours as it takes every day. What I say, boom, 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 which is great for me. Because again, I'm 24, right?
Yeah.
I'll do it. The reason I stopped doing it was more because I got heavily into Jiu Jitsu. And it was like, I'm already doing it.
There's only so much time.
I'm only doing about 4 hours a day of this, and then I'm grappling and fucked, So that's why I kind of came away from it a bit, but still train that kind of way. But nowadays, I would say the best way to enter into it is like go through the online coaching. And then when he does events like the pop-up event in Barcelona, it's great. Anyone can sign up to it. It just feels like a first come, first served sort of thing. But just be ready to work. You don't have to be at any level. You said before, I think one of your students said like, what does it take to turn up? What do I need in the body? You need to show up. Like, as long as you do what you can. Like there's people like when I was in Barcelona, there was a couple there, and I believe there was someone. They might have been somebody's parents, but they was about 70, like, and they were there all day training. You know what I mean? They ain't no joke. You know what I mean? So it was like, just show up basically. Be ready.
Fair enough. And then I suppose before we wrap up, let's talk podcasting. Podcast extraordinaire, rival.
Right, I was going to say rival because we're going to finish this with a death match. No,
Yeah, subscribe to the YouTube for the death match.
My one first.
Yeah. But yeah, your podcast has been blowing up. You're way more active than I am, so anyone listening definitely.
But you got a proper job, I don't. I teach people to fucking grapple and punch each other.
Yeah, you got the dream job.
Well, I mean, I'm sure your wages are better than mine. So yeah, podcasting, trying to blow up. I mean, I want it to be sort of the fighting podcast of the UK. Basically, I want it to be. I want to be able to do this to the point where I can go around like basically what I've been doing properly in terms of like it's what I do full time. You know what I mean? So I want to be able to go all over the country and the world. To be honest, we take these trips, interview people, train in their gyms, and do my thing. And I said at the start, it's not really secret. I don't know why I said it. To be honest, at the start, I said I've got a few things that I spoke to you about. I'm gonna start. I'm training for MMA and do like I've basically done MMA separately, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at having some MMA fights now and start putting together. See where that goes to a degree, and see how specific and how far I want to push it and take it. I'm 34 years old. I feel great. I'm 34 years old. Bless me. I've got time. I feel like I'm in my absolute prime. Everything's working. I'm great.
It's all that movement.
Right. Exactly. Hopefully. Right. But like at the same time, I'm not deluded. I'm not 21. I don't have forever in front of me. Yeah. So I want to push that too, and I want it to go hand in hand with the podcast. You know, I think some people think it's a distraction. It's not a distraction. To me, they work together. Like the guys I've been blessed to have podcasts with, especially when I've travelled far away to like up north and stuff. Shout out to the boys in Manchester and Bury, all them areas I went to. I've trained with them.
Yeah.
And when you train with them, I find I get a better connection with them.
Absolutely.
On the podcast. Because you're not just some schmo who shows up, you know, I'm in there, blood, sweat and tears and training hard. Not all of them, some will probably watch this and go, you're fucking training hard. There's only so many hours in the day, right?
Yeah.
But like, I try to train with them as best I can, make connections, and if I don't, go back and train again and do my thing. And as I said to you before, my plan would be going into an MMA fight. I'd like to go up north with Blue Bowl, train heavy duty before sort of like a little pre-camp type thing, you know, and really get it down, because my style, as I said, I'm pressure heavy, so it's no secret I'm not going to be throwing spinning kicks and bouncing around the ring. I'm coming, you know what I mean? It is how I'm going to be fighting, so keep it specific and do my thing. But to tie it with the podcast, I want it to grow, I want it to get a following. Everyone I've done a podcast with so far, I want to stay somewhat in touch with. It's not practical because I'm 60 episodes deep now.
I
want to be at a certain point, hopefully I'm going to be 1,000 episodes deep, you know what I mean? So you're not going to be talking to all these people all the time. I want to have connections with people, and I'd like to get to the point where I can go to any city in the UK and have someone to train and be like, I know these guys, you know, we've got this to do. And then I wanted to go to America, I want to be able to go to Thailand, Asia, wherever the podcast can go. And I want to keep them in person too. We spoke about this as well.
Yeah,
I stay in my lane in terms of I know my personality and I know what I'm not. So I know if I'm on a FaceTime with someone, hi, how are you? I've got about 3 minutes before the podcast. Shit, right? Exactly. I need to be sitting like this and it's not off limits to talk about dick jokes and whatever. So that's what I wanted to get to. You know, I wanted to go to the point where it's like I can get top fighters in the world, and not just fighters. Again, it's like that kind of dynamic of interest. So like, I've had Olympians on, I've had comedians on.
I was going to say, you've had some amazing guests to be
I've been lucky, man. I've been real lucky, you know. And like the Olympian I had on was a 2-time Olympian from rowing. Now I met him through second hand, but through jiu-jitsu. So he does jiu-jitsu now. Shout out John Collins, and he loves jiu-jitsu. That's how we got connected. So he connected that way. You know what I mean? Like Kev Hawkins, another guy I had on as a comedian. He's got an interest in it, do you know what I mean? And it's just a simple thing like that. I hesitate to say it's a man's podcast because I want women on too, and I've had women on. I'm going to have more, and women fight too, obviously. But like, you know, you get what I'm saying, that kind of dynamic I'm going for is that kind of 80 to 50 male sort of alpha interest type thing. So yeah, man, I just wanted to keep growing. I want the MMA stuff to tie in with it, have the fight, have a following, grow it, and sort of get a community of, like yourself, you're in podcasting, in some ways you're a rival, but I don't see it that, like, I don't think it should ever be that way. I think rising tide raises all ships, right? We're all in this together, and the better stuff we've got going on, we can keep bouncing back on podcasts, you know? We're still sat here in 10 years' time, like, we've done each other's podcast multiple times, you know what I'm saying? We're all in this together, we're all talking like old war stories, and like, we're at an age then where it's like we're looking at probably our kids and maybe grandkids, not grandkids for me, maybe you're a bit older than me, right? But you know what I'm saying, right? We can, that's what I want to do with it, you know? I went on a bit of a rant, but that's the answer.
No, but that's the thing, like, it's such a cool thing, like, I'm loving it, and you do it much more seriously and dedicated than me, like you say, you're all over the place and seeing all these people, and some of the people you've got on are phenomenal, and I always find it's really interesting to be able to sit, like you say, to go and train with some of these people, but then to sit down and just like pick their brains and chat shit with them for an hour or so afterwards is like invaluable.
It is, and it's like, the more you see it, like, you hear it and it's a bit sort of like a douchey thing it sounds, but like when you go to these places, you're talking to the same sort of person as you. You know what I mean? Like, we're all different accents and different backgrounds and different whatever, but we're all really the same. You know, we're all in this fight game, like, in some capacity. And you said to me offline, you're not looking to be a professional fighter. You're what did you say? A martial arts nerd.
Big old nerd.
Do you know what I'm saying? But same, just different, right? And it is what it is. You've had loads of fights. I think you undercut yourself by saying you're not that way. But because of your personality and the way you speak, it might not come across you that way. But don't get twisted. My boy will kick you in the head if you step out of line.
I'm over the stretch first.
We'll have a yoga session, then kick you in the head and stroke you softly to sleep after. But yeah, man, I think it's important to keep it just what it is. We're sitting there talking on the fucking sofa. We talk the same as that we're on.
That's it.
And that's my dynamic of it. Because as I said, I haven't got the personality to go, tell me about this and tell me about... People look at me and go, bro, shut up, you know what I mean? You're talking like you've got fucking plum in your mouth, you know? Like, do you see where I'm coming from? So to me, I want to keep this fun, because if it's not fun anyway, might as well go get an office job.
Well, that's it, 100%. Like, I said when I first started doing the podcast, I was like, look, I'm just going to do like, I think I set myself a goal of like 3. Let me see if I even fucking like it, because I have no idea before I even started. Do I feel like I'm awkward, I'm really fucking butchering it when I'm there, or am I liking it? And I liked it, I just keep going, and if it stops being enjoyable, I'll stop, because it's not like a big thing for me. And same for you, like if it's just like a chore, fuck that. Like you have to put so much time, effort, and you especially money, you're like travelling all over the place to see some of these guys, like you're not going to do that if you're not even enjoying that. So
no, but I'm lucky now. I'm at the point now where I said to you before, like I've had people reach out to me. Like, I'm a fan of the podcast. Can I come on? And it's like, fuck. That was like a big part going back to Manchester. Like there were some people I spoke to. They were like, I've listened to some. They're cool. If you want to listen to me chat shit, let's do it. And I was like, great. We couldn't get immediate time frame, so I went back up. But like the immediate thing is like, you know, I want, and maybe anyone listening, this will find it. It's like I'm looking to get sponsors, business partners, the whole deal to make this like the real deal. Do you know what I mean? So we can take this to the point where I've got someone with me on this. You know, at the moment I'm a one-man band traveling. It's working nicely, but you know, the next level of that is have someone with me who takes care of the other stuff. Where I can just podcast. This is what I do. You know what I mean? And like, get the tech guys to do the tech stuff. Get the whatever guy to do what he needs to do. You know, like when you speak to, I've spoken to some guys about sort of business opportunities with this. And they might always speak Japanese to some of it, you know what I mean? I keep up with them and it sounds great, and then they go, but when this happens and that, and the brrr, and I'm like, bro, okay, cool.
I'm just here to chat shit.
You know what I'm saying? I'm on a podcast talking nonsense, telling bad stories about Hapkido, you know what I mean? Like, you do that bit. And I've spoken to guys as well that have got their own YouTube channel. They don't do martial arts podcasts necessarily, but they do YouTube. And it's a business, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, once you get to a certain level and you've got enough people watching you, it turns into, you need a bit of someone else to take care of that bit, because otherwise, if I'm focusing too much on that, this is going to be, you know.
It can take such a huge amount of time, which is sort of why I struggle. I don't produce as many, but you're really good. You're weekly, if not more.
I'm putting out 2 a week.
2 a week.
So there was a few weeks I was so backed up that I put 5 out for 2 or 3 weeks. But unless, like some of them are time sensitive. So guys come on, they want to talk about fights they've got coming up. So that's when I pump out a few more. And then sometimes they're talking specifically, we go too deep into current fights. I want to come out like 5 weeks on or whatever.
Oh, that prediction hasn't aged.
Do you know what I'm saying? Or a review. You know what I mean? You got a review like that, and then like, bro, the final review happened. But it's, so like 2 a week minimum, I'm going to pump out. I'm probably going to keep it at 2 a week, but it depends. Like, as it grows, I want it to sort of get into the point where there'll be sort of like bonus episodes, if you like. So there might be an episode where we just get like someone like yourself on to talk shit about like a particular fight that's coming, and it's like tomorrow. So like Tom, you about just do it, and now it's like it's got to go out now because it's tomorrow. So like stuff like that. And there's other things I've got ideas with it in terms of like, there's a guy, I forget the guy's name, he's a Chelsea fan man, and he stands outside the ground with a thing, and I'm bombarding him with messages. He's been receptive, he's talked back, but I'm probably driving the geezer fucking mental. But he's he stands outside the bridge with a microphone in, he's like mad fans talking shit. So I'm coming for you. I'm waiting for the next Chelsea home game that I can get there. I'm just going to take the mic off. Squeeze the next podcast. And like, if he tries to wrestle the mic back, maybe, you know, we'll have a grapple. You know what I mean? So, but no, all friendly, obviously. But no, I'm going to plan on having a wind up with him, maybe get on the podcast. And as I say, make connections like that. Like, you know, my podcast, I always ask people at the end, like, what team sport? Correct answer. Finish with the fist up. And it's like, you know, I want other people from different fields coming on too. You know, I'd like to get, I've had international footballer on.
Saw that.
He actually had white collar bouts.
Oh, is it?
Didn't know that. So do you know what I mean? It was just happenstance. So we, I want that kind of thing too. I want to branch out to other podcasters and stuff. And like the Chelsea man guy, I'll find out your name, mate. I forgot it. But we're, you know, I want things like that going on. I'd like to get like rival fans, and, like, you know, Man United fans, so I can tell them shit their team in. But all things like that, I just want to grow and sort of like, just get out there more, because like today coming to your podcast, great. It's actually the first podcast I've done that's not my own.
Oh, right.
And it's cool, you know. I wanted to, just keep it growing, man. Keep it fun. Do you know what I mean? Like a good example, we shit on him earlier. You shit on Brendan Sharp earlier. You say his mum's ugly shit, right? You say his wife's terrible. Anyway, he said.
Load it up.
But jokes aside, like the fighter and the kid, like that's kind of the show. And it's different to ours because it's Americanized, doesn't it? And like that comes across, and like, if you listen to him talk about Brendan Sharp fought in the UFC, obviously, right? Brian Cantwell, what the fuck he's talking about, right? But it's fun and it works. Like, even like, I've said this on here before, and with all respect to it, like Joe, if you listen to Joe Rogan talk about fighting, it's nonsense.
I think we spoke about this when I come to yours.
But it's like, you don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Like, the predictions he makes are fucking, I don't know if I've ever heard him get one right. And it's like, it sounds like you're disrespectful. I've been Shawman, he's been on Rogan. He's a great guy, he's lovely. I'm sure he is. I don't mean it in like a knocking way, because hopefully he'll have me on one day. But maybe I'll get you on
We'll scrub this just in case the Rogan episode comes out.
I mean, if JRE comes to shout, we'll bury this one. No, but it's like, it's a classic example of someone who's around fighting, but not in fighting. Like, he's seen all fights, but he hasn't done it. You know, and people go, he's also very wealthy. How hard is he training? He spoke before about having like when he wasn't doing classes, he was doing private. I'm not saying he's not a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You see where I'm coming from with it? It's like you've never been in a gym like a normal person, if you like. We mentioned Elson Boxing Club earlier, like you know, down there. Joe Rogan ain't been in that situation, and if he has, it was a million years ago. Do you know what I'm saying? He ain't going in the gym now. We've got hundreds of millions in the bank or whatever he's worth, and people trying to level him. It's not happening. Do you know what I mean? So
I don't know. I can see a few people taking a fucking swing.
Mate, he's got a Navy SEALs around his fucking arsehole at the moment, right? Like, how rich he is. And good luck to him. It sounds like you're criticising him. I'm not. I don't mean it. I listen to his I was listening to his podcast on the way here. I love his show. Do you know what I mean? But then you got to have like what we were saying about the fake martial arts earlier. You got to have an air of realness. Like if you listen to him talk about his predictions, he's wrong all the time. Right? And there's nothing wrong with it. We all pick fights from Shad, Big Chop. You know who you are. You always get a fight from somebody who can really fight and he can really fight. Terrible at picking fights. if Big Charlie tells you who's going to win, bet on the other guy. You're a rich man. But it is what it is, right? When you listen to his podcast, the point I'm going to rant again. I do it a lot, but it's like when you listen to his podcast is. I was going to say successful. It's probably the most successful podcast ever, right? It is, something like that. Right? And he's like made hundreds of millions, and that's not exaggeration from it. But the point is, it's just fun.
Yeah.
I went around sounding like
just
it's just fun because, like as I say, they get the predictions wrong. We said Brendan Sharp, they make the wrong prediction all the fucking time. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's
not about that.
It's not an analysis show. It's not football focus on a Saturday. You've got to get things right, and like you know what I mean. You've got a boss in your ear and all that stuff. Joe Rogan spoke about your podcast too. It's like how massive that is. He's got like a skeleton crew. I think he said he had 3 people working for him on a podcast that big. He's obviously got the famous young Jamie. Pull this one up. But if I ever get to the point where mate, if I ever get to the point where I've got a young Jamie pull this up, we'll win. But what's your vision of yours?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I don't have too much of a thing for it. I like the opportunity to get to see people, like talk to interesting people with bigger backgrounds. I know I'm pretty young to it, and I'm not like some crazy experienced fighter. I'm not some crazy coach. I'm just a fan of martial arts, and I like to be able to pick brains, travel, train, like see what's going on. And I'm content with that for now. You know, if it builds, it builds. If it fizzles out, fizzles out. Like,
Squeeze the Neck podcast could be number 1. You could be number 2.
That's it, I'll take that.
You could be number 2.
Mind. Joe Rogan's close behind. I'm afraid.
Listen, the amateur hour over there. No, shout out Joe Rogan. I mean, that's a sign of success. If you ever good enough podcast that you can get on Rogan's. We'll bury this tape.
It's got it.
Exactly. But this has been great, man.
Yeah, it's been awesome to have you on, man. Where can people find you? Squeeze the Neck. What's the place to be?
So Squeeze the Neck podcast on my Instagram and YouTube. It will be on Spotify and other platforms soon, but at the moment, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. But at the moment, I'm just trying to grow it and get as many subscribers as I can, and through this way, get as much exposure as I can. Because before when I was putting it on other things, I just felt like I'm spreading myself too thin and whatever. So for now, just YouTube, subscribe for free, all that nice stuff. Follow me on Instagram.
That's it. Zero cost, easy to support, makes a big difference for a growing podcast like that. So absolutely, follow on social media. It's just a fucking button, right? You know, don't be a dick.
That's it.
But anyway, Olly, thank you very much for coming on, man. It's been a pleasure, been good fun, and make sure to check out Squeeze the Neck.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that. Ollie's a super interesting guy, really diverse background, good fun to chat with as well. Hopefully you guys picked up on that. Do make sure to check out on his podcast, Squeeze the Neck podcast. You can find it on Instagram and on YouTube is where the full episodes are available. Give him a follow on both, show him a little bit of love, can't hurt whatsoever. And while you're there, feel free to also support this podcast at CWAMA Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. Give us a follow, give us a like, share it with someone else, both sides. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next one.